I don't mean to spam y'all with all these food videos, but I mean, at the moment, this is all I can film in my right mind. Just code for it. I haven't even actually filmed this from the intro. As you can see, this is from weeks ago, and I'm just now voicing it over. But back to the food, we are sauteing some kale because today I am making grits. So I just sauteed that in like garlic, red pepper flakes, and I'm having that with a side of toast. If you guys ever see bread on my channel, 9 times out of 10 it's sourdough. And on top of that, I am putting some homemade strawberry jam and cherry. And then after that, I actually had a matcha. Then I took my leftover Beyond sausages, decided to make these into meatballs. You can even make these into burger patties if you want to. But today I had a craving for a meatball sub because that just seemed logical based off of everything I had in my refrigerator at this point. So I just put in a little bit of pasta sauce. I also added some tomato paste, which is going to thicken it up, and it actually sticks to your meatballs and to your bread. Then I topped it off with some vegan mozzarella. And then I used some of the pretzel buns from last week's episode, which I think was episode 5. And I actually turned that into garlic bread, which is again in another previous recipe. But don't worry, everything is listed down in the description box. So if you just look for the recipe and or the timestamp, then I will have the video link that I'm talking about, which will again have timestamps. And the next day for breakfast, I had one of my favorite fruits. And this was kind of bittersweet because I don't like to make a habit of buying fruits without seeds. But it is like impossible nowadays. So I caved in because I was just really craving it. And I hadn't had one in over a year. And if you're one of those people who actually cut these up, then we can't be friends because all I do is take a spoon to it, done. And in case anyone's curious, yes, I did eat that entire half. In fact, I also went in for seconds. So I ate about 3/4 of that watermelon in one sitting. Then later on, I made a salad, and this is the exact salad that I made in, again, the last episode, which is a kale Caesar, but instead of cashews, I just added cucumber and walnuts. So again, that will be linked down below. And since that was so light, even though I used like an entire bushel of kale, you can see I massaged it down to like almost nothing. So later on that night when my boyfriend called me and said, "Are you hungry?" I said, "Have we met? When am I not hungry?" So he brought me over some food, and this is the smokehouse with sweet potato fries and sriracha aioli, and it was delicious. And after this, I was still having a sweet tooth, like something serious. So I was gonna make a strawberry milk, but didn't have any milk. Therefore, I decided to make yogurt, but I wanted it to feel more like dessert, not breakfast. So I built it like a parfait, but I topped it with some whipped cream. And honestly, some shortbread or, a little cake would have really topped this off because then I could have had a strawberry shortcake, but that had to do. The next day, you guys know how I feel about cold pressed juices, so I decided to make one because I had broken down and gotten some grapes, which again, weren't seeded, but I digress. I remembered the one and only time that I had made grape juice. It was amazing. But I thought I might actually want to try a blend. So I pulled out my book, which I hadn't referenced in a very long time and forgot that I owned. And I put grape, strawberry, and orange, which wasn't the recipe, but I thought it would go well together. So I guess you could say I was looking at it for inspiration. And to that, I also added some MSM powder as a supplement. And then a little bit later, I wasn't ready to eat yet, but I wanted something. So I decided, you know what? I'm finally going to try this DALGONA coffee. For some of you, this may come as a shock because no, I don't normally drink coffee. And it's not that I dislike it, it's just I don't love it either. Like, it was okay. Like, I can't really judge it because also my instant coffee was trash. Like, I'm not even gonna pretend that it was passing. It was 99 cents, maybe less. I'd be willing to try it again. It definitely would have to be a different coffee. So if you guys have any recommendations, feel free to put them below. And then I prepped some grapefruit to make a syrup. Again, this is from a previous video, so it will be linked. And I did have a couple questions about how exactly I made this. So here I was just kind of showing you guys how I deconstruct the grapefruit itself. You don't want any of the pith, you just want the fruit and or the juice. And if you want to, you can blend this down, strain it so that you can take out all of the pulp, or you can leave it chunky because it don't hurt nobody. And then, wow, she's really showing off because yeah, I made more coffee, but I wasn't gonna drink it this day. I decided to make a really strong brew, like really strong. Like I think I used 2 tablespoons for only like 5 ounces of water. And then I made some ice cubes out of that, as well as the butterfly PT. Pop those in the freezer and then you guys will see that later. This day I also made some almond milk, and I have an entire video dedicated to this. So if you guys want that recipe, it's probably popping up on the screen, but it will also be below as well. And then using that exact same method, I also made pistachio milk. And then what I didn't use for the ice cubes, I actually drank as a hot tea. So this is the next morning and I'm using the pistachio milk to make a matcha. And I remember posting this on Instagram and thinking, wow, this tastes exactly like Frosted Flakes. I don't know if it's just me, but that is my assessment. If any of you guys try it, please make sure you tag me and let me know. So what are your thoughts? Is it just me or did I actually do a thing? I think I might have even organized my pantry this day and I realized, what are these still doing here? So I decided taco night, but instead of using jackfruit or a processed meat substitute, I used walnuts, onion, garlic, sun-dried tomatoes, which I have soaked in water, and make sure that you save the soak water because you're going to use it later. This is something that I used to make when I was raw. So yes, you can actually eat it raw, but I did decide to make a cooked version and therefore added black beans. So you just put in whatever veggies you want to flavor it with, all of your seasoning. I even add a little bit of cacao powder and I pulse that in the food processor, which in case anyone's curious, yes, this does connect to my hand blender. And as you blend, you kind of want to check the consistency, see if you need a little bit more liquid, saute it up, toast your shells. I also added sauteed peppers and onions, then topped it off with some shredded lettuce and coconut yogurt as sour cream. And of course, Chipotle hot sauce. Again, sweet tooth. So I made a quick parfait, strawberry and cherry jam, some sliced bananas, granola, nuts, all the fixins. The next day, polished off my grape juice for breakfast. And then for lunch, I still had a lot of the walnut meat and tacos left because it was like a family bag. So I made them again. I also picked up some tortillas, but I got the almond flour instead of the chickpea flour like I got last time. And then remember those ice cubes we made? I'm making an iced latte. Literally all I did was just pour over some oat milk and I added a sweetener because remember we brewed it really strong. And oh my God, took me quite a while to drink because those ice cubes took forever to melt. 11 out of 10 would recommend. And oh yeah, I'm now remembering this was my birthday. So I wanted to make myself some brownies and I could not for the life of me find a recipe that looked like it was gonna be like just it, you know, because I'm one of those people who I don't like fudgy brownies, I don't like cakey brownies, but somewhere in between, yeah, that's the one. So I just kind of quickly Googled, searched something, and I will put the original recipe down below where I got it, but I definitely made my own like substitutions and therefore probably totally screwed it up because these were not my favorite, but they were still good and everyone that I gave them to thought they were delicious. So I guess maybe that's saying something. And speaking of substitutions, remember when I made those quinoa pancakes and I was like, yeah, we gonna figure out, as I suspected, chocolate would definitely overpower it. So that was the key. And yes, I only filled half the pane. Don't judge. I just put these in the refrigerator to cool, so I didn't actually even eat them hot, nor did I even have them on my actual birthday. So there's that. And then the next day, I didn't eat till pretty late because I was actually busy giving my mom a pedicure because the day after is her birthday. So once I finished pampering her, I made a pizza, but there's 2 of them because I'm also making one for her. And this pizza is actually inspired by one that I've had, but the only thing is I have put spinach as a base, which is going to wilt down and just give me a little bit more flavor, but also just like keep me from having to use a bunch of cheese because let me tell you, vegan cheese is nothing like real cheese. So you just don't need very much of it because when it melts, it's gonna add like that satiating fat quality, but it's not like that chewy, bubbly, stretchy experience, if you know what I mean. And as a side, I made some more potato leek soup. Again, I showed you this in depth in a previous video. I still had some leftover walnut meat even after making the second round of tacos, so I decided to turn that into a taco salad. Top that with some chipotle mayo, and that was dinner. For dessert, I finally got to having a brownie for myself, and I topped that with some mint chocolate chip ice cream. Also, I've had a few inquiries like here and there about what I do with the pulp when I make juice. This day I wanted to show you guys an example. So I took the pulp from the grapes, which does have some of the juice in it. So that's very important if you are going to recreate this, because if you just have fiber, you're going to be lacking in flavor. So you actually do want to add some of the juice back to the pulp, and then you can just top it off with water like I am. And then I added that to the stove with some turbinado sugar because we are making actual jam. So this is how you would traditionally make a jam or jelly. The syrups and jams that you guys usually see me make, they're only going to keep for about 5 to 7 days because you want to treat them like fresh produce because they are. You haven't cooked them. They're still pretty much in their raw state. But you know me, I think raw is better always. And just keep in mind that my texture is a little bit different to if you were to start off with the full fruit. Plus I've cooked off a lot of the liquid. So when I put this in the refrigerator, it's going to firm up a lot more. So I made that first thing in the morning, but I wanted it to cool off, so I put it in the refrigerator and I made a smoothie using some strawberry jam, frozen fruit, you know the drill, and then devoured this thickness. And then later on, you guys are seeing me make another meatball sub, but this one was actually not for me. This was for my boyfriend. So these were leftovers and I put his on a potato bun. And then for me, I decided to make like kind of a teriyaki chicken. So I just sauteed that up. And then I made a sauce out of coconut aminos, sesame oil, a little maple syrup as my sweetener. And then I added some fresh chopped garlic and ginger. Not at all traditional, but that's what I had. Put that over some brown rice, finished with spring onions and way too many sesame seeds. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. And of course, don't forget to subscribe because as you can see, I am still trying to get caught up at this point. So I still have 2 more episodes and I'm trying to get those out in a couple of days so that you're not having to wait so long between the time that you see me post food on Instagram and the time that I actually put up the recipe.